Hello, my name is Hannah Hanzo, and this is my Practicum self-evaluation. So the organization that I did my practicum with is called AYA at USC. This is an organization that is at USC, and it was established in 2013. So AYAs are adolescents and young adults with cancer between the ages of 15 and 39. This is a term that is known in the oncology world worldwide. So there are AYA organizations outside of just USC. They are all over the world, and they're typically in academic institutes, but they can also be in nonprofits. So we have our own AYA here at USC, established in 2013. It was established with USC Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center, UCLA, and LA County Hospital. And the mission of our AYA organization and others around the world is to improve health outcomes for this particular group of adolescents and young adults with cancer. They have been identified as a particularly vulnerable group because of their age. They're not quite in the pediatric world, they're not quite in the adult world, and they're experiencing very unique psychosocial needs during this time, which affect their ability to have good long-term health outcomes. Unfortunately, this particular group has been identified as extremely vulnerable, and the literature has shown that their long-term health outcomes have actually been very poor. So, studying AYAs and finding ways that we can help them and better connect them, fill in gaps to why their long-term health outcomes are poor, is really important. So here on the left are the people that I worked with. So Shu Lee was my practicum advisor. I also worked with Aura right next to her. She was a social worker. She worked at CHLA for a very long time. I worked with the two of them directly. I know that there are medical directors that sort of head the organization, but I did not work with any of those myself. There were also a few other practicum students that I got to meet at events. So just diving into AYA a little bit more, this is their website, and they do all kinds of amazing things for adolescents and young adults with cancer. They host online Zoom workshops. So here on the left, you'll see their calendar for the month, and I got to get involved with helping manage their website, make their flyers for events, run some of their social media pages, such as their Instagram and their Twitter, and I really enjoyed doing that. So they have a monthly support group that meets on Zoom. They also have other Zoom meetings, such as financial literacy training or songwriting workshops. And then here's a flyer for their fall camp annual retreat. So for my scope of work, I had 3 goals. My first goal was to increase LA County AYA participation in group retreats by reaching out to AYAs and their families and reaching out to providers at CHLA and at USC to encourage them to send their patients to our fall group retreat. So this is my measure of success for this goal. I made a PowerPoint presentation that was designed to be presented to both physicians and AYAs and their family members to essentially pitch this fall retreat that's happening this September, and I will be going to pitch this retreat to them and just say, hey, this is what we're going to be doing at the retreat. This is why retreats can be really beneficial for you. We want you to come join us. And this is part of my practicum deliverable, and I'm really, really happy with how this presentation came out. My second goal is to look at how cancer diagnosis affects the mental health of AYAs in both the short term, so when they get their diagnosis, when they're going through their treatment, but also in the long term, after their treatment, what does their mental health look like? There are many stressors that having a cancer diagnosis and going through chemo can put on a person, especially when they're in this very, very vulnerable age range. Initially, I wanted to study the relationships between AYAs and their friends and family and how that evolved after a cancer diagnosis, but after doing my literature searches, I quickly found that the mental health of AYAs, which was a much larger issue, and it was quite well documented, so I decided to kind of shift into that as my goal. So I completed a literature analysis, which is part of my deliverable, and I also created a mock qualitative survey. This was not actually presented to AYAs. It would have taken months and months of IRB approval to actually bring this to patients, but I made a mock survey that I would hypothetically like to present to our AYAs here at USC to get an idea of what some local data looks like in terms of how our AYAs are dealing with their cancer diagnosis and what their mental health looks like. My third goal was to create various educational materials for AYAs. So there is a big gap in knowledge that AYAs have about important topics that are affecting them and their health outcomes. This again is due to their very particular age where they're not quite kids, but they're not quite adults. And so there were many needs that were identified that AYAs did not have enough education or exposure to, that I got to make some pamphlets, which I really enjoyed doing, to teach them about. So this is an example of a pamphlet that I made for women about fertility preservation. So when you are undergoing radiation or chemo or other types of cancer treatments, often this will decrease one's ability to have healthy fertility and to have children. And so fertility preservation is something really important that's not really talked about, especially because some of these patients are still teenagers, so they're not really at the stage where they're talking about getting pregnant, but it's important to talk about because things like fertility preservation and egg freezing need to happen before the cancer treatments, if not as early as possible. So that's what I made this brochure for. I've also made event flyers throughout the year, and this is just a picture of a flyer that I made that we include in some of our AYA presentations to stakeholders. So, the public health competencies that I addressed are FPH 19 and FPH 7. So, for FPH 19, the brochures that I designed for AYAs are to communicate important public health information that they may be less familiar with. And these brochures, cover topics that I discussed, and I tailored the content to the needs and understanding of AYAs. I tried to make it accessible for a younger age group that maybe isn't as proficient in medical terminology. And I feel that I effectively communicated complex public health topics in an accessible and engaging manner that engaged the audience. I tried to use colors and pictures, and I tried to really be as simple as possible. For FPH 7, my literature analysis that I did identified gaps in the healthcare system, and I discussed the needs of this vulnerable population to improve their healthcare outcomes. And the analysis also included broader societal factors and a mock qualitative survey, which I discussed previously. So I believe this aligns with the competency in assessing population needs and capacities affecting human health. For the global health specific competencies, I addressed GHL2 in my literature analysis. I talked about how globalization and worsening of mental health issues among young adults are contributing to, um, general global health issues. The essay that I wrote also talks about how globalization can make mental health challenges worse, specifically for AYAs with cancer. And I talk about how a holistic approach is needed to address mental health challenges. For GLH4, the brochures that I created for AYAs talk about approaches to disease prevention and control. They have information on topics that I've discussed, and really the idea is to educate AYAs on critical aspects of their health. I believe that this aligns with this competency. Coursework that I feel helped me throughout my practicum. I think every class that I took in this master's somewhat tied into my final practicum work. But some classes that really stood out to me are PM576 Global Health Research. I actually just took this class this semester, and it was really great timing because this class taught a lot about how to conduct a good literature analysis. So I felt really prepared when I did my literature analysis for this course, and we talked about how to do proper searches at USC libraries and how to find relevant papers that contribute to a literature analysis. We talked about how to write a good qualitative survey, which I thought was an easy thing until I took this class and I learned a much more nuanced approach to how to write a qualitative survey. Other classes that I felt really helped were PM508, Health Service Delivery. This class was really a foundation for how I approached the entire public health masters. So, the class taught the foundation of the U.S. healthcare system, and that really helped me see what the gaps in the U.S. healthcare system are and why they exist. It also helped me understand what literacy level most patients are at and how to create effective information and brochures for them. PM525 was by far my favorite class of this entire program, and it not only affected my practicum positively, but it really affects my life very positively, and it really helped me develop my critical thinking skills. It helped me think big picture. It helped me step into the shoes of my audience, and most importantly, it gave me the confidence to be creative in how I want to present information. Finally, for my rating, I would say that I'm extremely satisfied with my practicum choice. I feel that I really lucked out. I had a few practicums that I was looking at. I was going to actually go another direction until I saw an email pop up with AYA and an opportunity being available. I had previously worked at CHLA as a clinical research coordinator with patients on phase 1 and 2 drug studies. So I worked with young adults with cancer. And at the time that I applied for the practicum, I was actually working for a company called Kite and doing CAR T cell therapy also in cancer research. So the oncology theme really drew me, but this was so much more than that. Between how wonderful it was to work with my practicum advisor to how many different opportunities I had during this practicum, I also, for my capstone, got to write a letter of intent for a grant proposal, which was accepted in creating a new position at AYA for a clinical research coordinator to connect AYAs to clinical research studies. I got to attend many AYA events, from fairs to 5Ks to just get-togethers, and I not only met other students like me, but I met AYAs, which was really, really meaningful. So, skills that I acquired unexpectedly, I was really pleasantly surprised by how much I enjoyed doing sort of more marketing things. I am a, science background and have worked in the medical field and in research for quite some time, and I'm very creative, but I've never really gotten to explore that in my professional life. So I really, really enjoyed getting to make these, brochures and run the Instagram pages and event flyers and website information for AYA. And it actually totally changed the trajectory of where I want to go with my own career. I currently work in clinical research, and I'm actively trying to switch from working on the research side and transition into the marketing side of things now that I have a better global health perspective and a bigger picture perspective on how things work and what type of information patients like to see and how. I want to be a part of that bigger picture in my own work. Right now, I work very much in the weeds of research and the research process, and I'm excited to be a part of more strategic and creative approaches to how companies put out a medical device product or a drug. So I'm hoping that this kind of helps me transition into the marketing world. Right now I work for a medical device company. I'm hoping I don't have to get an MBA. We will see. I honestly can't say that there was anything I did not like about my capstone experience. I just feel like I lucked out so much with this organization and how wonderful the people are. I guess the only thing I wish is that I would have done it for 2 years instead of one. That would be my advice for future students, is I think it would be really valuable to get involved with a practicum almost immediately or maybe after the first semester, because I think I would have gotten even more out of the program and been able to contribute even more value to the program had I been there for 2 years or 1.5 years instead of one. So that's my advice. I think that would also help future students feel like they're ready to graduate by the time they get to the capstone course. And really, the best part for me was just the sense of purpose that I felt. Like I said, at my current work, I don't feel a huge sense of purpose at the moment, as I am kind of in the weeds of very detailed work. And so this helped me connect back to patients, work with patients, get to be involved and hands-on. And as someone that used to work with patients a lot, I've really missed that. And it's helped me find my purpose again and feel some excitement and joy. Anyways, thank you so much for your time, and I really, really appreciate everyone's help in getting me to this point. Thank you.